Excuse me. We are going to be talking about synthesizing versus summarizing the literature when you are writing your literature reviews. That is of interest to you. Definitely keep on watching. I am Dr. Marvette Lacey. I work with doctoral students to write their dissertations in 12 months or less using a 10-hour weekly writing routine. I almost forgot my words there for a minute. I'm like, what am I saying? We do that through the Institute. I have helped hundreds of people become doctors, which is why I remember my words. Hello, welcome. As you come in, let me know, hey, what is it like to be you on today? So I started this conversation off in the stories, and then there was a voice that was like, girl, if you don't go live, because this is too much for a story conversation. And because we are currently completing the 30-day literature review challenge inside of Qual Scholars, I thought this was very timely. Tonight at 7 p.m., we have dissertation classes every Thursday night where I teach either like a section of how to write the dissertation, or I'm talking more about like imposter syndrome and like things that stop you from putting words on the page. And I teach you how to remove imposter syndrome, or how to remove the overwhelm and the doubt and the stress so that you can put words on a page. So if you are interested, you definitely can still join us. But we're going to be talking about synthesizing and summarizing. And what I was saying in the stories is that we have falsely been taught that the way that you write anything, so you write a manuscript, you write chapter in your dissertation, it comes from how we were taught to write inside of our courses. So think about like a traditional course where you get a syllabus at the beginning. It tells you all your reading assignments, your writing assignments. And if you anything like me, whenever it came down to a writing assignment, you had all the intentions of starting early, but then, ADHD, time blindness, life starts lifing. You don't start it early, and it's the night before, and you're like, oh, I forgot about that assignment. Let me write it up really quickly. Like, let me read a few things. Let me write it up real quickly. Let me turn it in. And you turn it in, you get a grade, and then you move on to the next assignment. And so that falsely sets us up to believing that that is what writing is. Like, that's what it means to have a writing process, is that you're going to read a few things, you're going to write it, you're going to turn it in. Somebody's going to give you a grade. Usually it's going to be a good grade, and you move on to the next. But that is false. Writing is a process. What I mean by that, process, a noun, means that there are a series of steps that you take in order, that you have to complete a step one by one. You can do it as fast as you want to, but you need to complete steps one by one to get to an end result. That's what it means to have a process. So writing is inclusive of individual steps that you do one by one. Let me say it again for the people who are multitasking. You do this one by one to get to the result of a completed draft of whatever you're writing. In this case, we're talking about the literature review. So that's one thing. The other thing that people tell you when it comes to a literature review is that you must include everything that's ever been written, talked about, mildly discussed around this topic in the literature review. And no, okay? Real simply put, no. Because we don't got the time, we don't got the space, and you're not about to sit here and read every single thing. Like, that was useful advice in the 90s. This is 2024, where more research has been produced. We can't include everything that's been in the literature. But with this thinking, what I see students do is that you'll download all these articles. Like if I go into your like OneDrive folder or your computer or something, I'll see like hundreds of articles that you've been collecting over the years. And so you think, okay, finally I made it to the literature review. I'm going to sit here and I'm going to read all of these articles that I collected. You're like, I'm going to read them. I'm going to make some notes. Y'all have y'all like fancy literature review matrices and your worksheets. Maybe you're doing like an annotated bibliography. Maybe whatever. You have this note system that you're doing, and you're like, I feel real good. I'm reading article after article. Look at me doing this literature review. So you read however many, let's say like you read like 20, 30 articles. And then you're like, finally, okay, I think I read enough to put words on a page. So you go to write and crickets. You have nothing to put on the page. If you can get yourself to bust through that, what I see most people tend to do then is like, well, I'm just going to take it article by article and I'm just going to summarize each of the articles. And at least that'll give me something that I can put on the page. And so maybe you start saying, okay, such and such found this. They did this type of study. They had this many participants. This is what their findings. This is what they said to do. Next paragraph, such and such said this. They did this and they told us to do this. Right? And you keep doing that and you feel really proud. You probably have like a good 15, 20 pages and you go to your chair and you're like, look at me, I did my literature review. And they're like, oh, thank you, keep on writing. And you're like, what do you mean? They're like, yeah, you're not, this is great, but you're just listing out what you read. You're not telling me anything. And you might be like, but I summarized, I talked about the literature. Isn't that the point in a literature review, is to discuss the literature that's relevant? And they're like, yeah, but you need to keep writing. And if you're like me, you're confused at this point. Because what do? If you've done everything that they've taught you to do, which is you download the articles and you read them and you made notes and then you translated those notes into what you thought was a literature review, and they're like, yeah, no, keep writing. Put a 1 in the chat if this is resonating with you, because I just want to see who's here. Does this sound familiar to you? But they're like, keep on writing. And one day, I went to my chair. I was like, girl, hey girl, I'm going to ask you a question that maybe I should know the answer to, but I just don't. I've got it, girl. And so I was like, Christina, girl, because we call chairs by their first name. Because, sometimes you need to remind them you are a person. So I was like, Christina, girl, what's the purpose of a literature review? Because I'm over here trying to write it and it ain't clicking for me. And she goes, to my surprise, she's like, girl, I don't know. I looked at her like, what do you mean? You're the chair. You're supposed to know. She's like, no, I really don't know. But this is how I approach it. And what she said to me, and it has stuck with me, she's like, I approach the literature review as it's providing the necessary context needed for the study. Here's how I will translate that, how it resonates in my head and how I explain it to students. When I think about a literature review, here you have a study that you would like to conduct, right? So for my dissertation, I wanted to explore the identity development experiences of Black women in doctoral programs, right? So I have the study that I want to do, but the main question that we all have to answer when we're doing research is why? Why would I want to do a study about the identity development of Black women in doctoral programs? Why is that needed? When you think about your study, the question is why? Why do we need the study? Why does it matter? And why should we care? Your literature review should answer those questions. Your literature review, I think about it as a persuasive argument as to why your study needs to be done in the way that you want to do it. I do not think about a literature review as we're going to just talk abstractly about the topic. No, the literature review has a job. By the time that the reader, hear my words, catch it, the reader, not you, the reader, by the time the reader gets to the end of the literature review, they should be jumping up and down and being like, oh, absolutely, run it. We need this study. But if I am reading your literature review and all I got was some summaries of some articles, I'm not going to necessarily understand why we need to do your study. So if we go back to my example of studying the identity development experiences of Black women, right? I had to answer why. Why do we even need to, why should we care? Now, let me take a pause real quick. A lot of times we get really sensitive when people start asking us why. And I get it, because we live in a world where we're constantly told to justify our existence and our dignity and to prove our integrity, right? And you're like, I'm just over here existing. Like, why do I have to prove that I'm existing? And I get that people might be asking you questions over and over and they don't understand, and you might be real irritated and you don't want to answer that question anymore. But I cannot stress enough to you that your proposal's job is to answer the question, why? Why does this matter? Why should we care? What I want y'all to do is to assume that the person who's reading your entire dissertation has never heard of your topic before, has never heard of your program, has never heard of your field of study. Because when you go in with the assumption that the reader is brand new to this, then you're going to write for the reader. Most people are writing for themselves, or you're writing for your chair. You're writing for people who you are assuming already have a background understanding in your topic. But who you need to write for is a person who has never heard of your topic. Because when you write for someone who's brand new, you become clear, you become succinct in your writing, and you take more of an educator or teaching role when you're writing. So that was like a side note, like a little interlude there. But I wanted to add that because that's something that I stress often to students as they're writing their literature review. You must keep the reader in mind, because when you keep the reader in mind and you assume that the reader has no prior experience, then you don't try to get all fancy. You're not trying to impress the reader. You're trying to help the reader understand, this is my topic, this is what it means, and this is why I'm doing this study. And if how you know you're doing it effectively is if at the end of the literature review, the reader is like, oh yeah, we absolutely need to know more about this. So when it came to, we go back to my dissertation in terms of the identity development experiences of Black women in doc programs, right? My literature review then, the first part was like, we've been having the same conversation for the past umpteen years. Black women are still rising in enrollment. Yeah, ain't got not like the percentage of graduation rates ain't moving, right? They keep telling you they're isolated. They keep telling you they don't have no support. Y'all keep talking about mentoring. Ain't nobody here to be mentored. Like, we don't got no options, okay? So that's the first half. My second half of my literature review then was, we got all these identity development theories. They not doing nothing. They old, they outdated, they using old research. It ain't working, right? Our newer theories, while they're getting close, it's not quite explaining the day-to-day experiences of Black women. So I am going to do a study where I talk directly to Black women in doc programs and ask them about their experience and ask them how are they navigating these oppressive ass programs. And we're going to use that information to help more Black women retain and get to the end of graduation. That essentially was my literature review. So do you like me using an example, can you understand then how a person can get to the end of the literature review and be like, oh, absolutely, of course you need to do this study, because you just explained it to me what is currently happening and why the solutions that are being proposed currently are not working and why we need more information. I am essentially crafting a narrative to help the reader understand, this is why I'm doing this study. Okay, put a 1 in the chat if you're following me. If y'all are still with me, I know folks are joining, but put a 1 in the chat if you are still following me. You're understanding what I mean when I say the literature review is crafting like this arc, if you will, of helping the reader who has no knowledge, no experience, understand what it is that you're doing and why you're doing it and why you need to study. Okay? And I promise to come back and answer questions after I get through this part. Okay, so with that understanding then, I want to talk about 3 things that I hear often that I'm going to hurt some people's feelings, all right? Love you, mean it. Number 1, you think that in order to write a literature review, you have to read first. Somebody make a sense for me, okay? What are you reading and why are you reading it? Now, like, I want you to think about this as you're approaching your literature review. How do you know what to read? That's my question. How do you know what to read? Now, some of you may say, I don't know, I just downloaded some articles and I started reading. But yeah, but how do you know that those are the articles you should be reading? If you don't have an answer to that, how do you think you're going to get to an answer even after you do the reading? When you start with reading first, you're confused, like you're overwhelming yourself. And you are reading and it may relate to your topic, but we don't know if that's even going to be useful for your literature. And so for all the folks who are like, I'm working smarter. How? How you know? How? So that's number 1. Number 2, if you do get to the writing, I find that a lot of students are like, I can't write if I don't know what the citations are that I'm using. because I have to have a citation for every sentence. If I write a sentence and I can't find a citation for it, then I get stuck and I stop writing. And I'm like, okay, how do you know what citation to use for that sentence? Go with me. Go with me for a minute. Because some of you are like, what do you mean? Listen to the question. How do you know? When you're writing, because we're talking about the first rough draft, people will tell me I can't move on to the next sentence unless I have a citation for this sentence I just wrote. How do you know what citation to use? And so what it ends up looking like in the day-to-day practice is that you start going through all the articles you already read and you're trying to find a citation that matched the sentence you just wrote. And you're doing all this searching and searching, you're going down rabbit hole after rabbit hole, hours to look for one citation that you probably don't find. And then you just get exasperated and then you just quit and then you never come back to the literature review for months. Because you were trying to find a citation for the one sentence that you wrote. Y'all see these memes where it's you read 2 books, 10 articles to find one citation. Why? Do you got time for that? It's hot outside. Don't you want to go outside? I want to go outside. Listen, low key, I'm real upset. I'm in Atlanta, y'all. I really want to go to the Megan concert. I know this is random. Stay with me. I really wanted to go to the Megan concert and the water thing went out and I couldn't go. And I was like, see, I'm trying to be outside. Right? We got concerts, we got things, we got people. You don't need to be inside all day trying to write a literature review. You got a life. You get to live a life. I don't care what nobody told you about, if you want to be a serious scholar, you must stay inside and write all day. They're not doing that shit, so you don't need to do that. And if you're new to me, I cuss, okay? I ain't nobody's professor. I don't work for nobody's institution. I get to say what I want, how I want, okay? All right, okay, let's get back because I'm getting beside myself. All right. So number 3, you might be like, okay, I'm supposed to start with a map or an outline. You know what my favorite is? People are like, I need an outline. I need to know the big picture. I need to see what I'm going to write before I write it. And I'm like, so let me get this straight. You are going to take 3 months to write this very detailed outline, only to get to the end of that outline, be too exhausted because you spent all your good time and energy on making an outline and now you don't got nothing left over to write. So what good is that outline really doing? It just wasted your time and your energy. Now, I'm not saying that we don't need to know overall what we're writing. I'm just saying, why are you putting more energy and effort into something that is not the actual literature review? When you could just use that same time and energy to put words on the page. We could just write the literature review instead of trying to go deeper and deeper into an outline. And my personal favorite is I like to write my first shitty draft and then I like to translate that draft into an outline to come back to for later. I do not do the outline first because I don't know what it is that I want to say. The theme about thinking you need to read first, you need to have citations right away, and you need to do a detailed outline is really the core of it. You don't trust yourself. You don't trust that you know enough or that you are capable enough to write a literature review using your own knowledge in your brain. And because this abusive ass education system has told us to not trust ourselves, because that's who reinforced it. That's who taught us and reinforced that we should not trust ourselves. Because we're still in the environment, and that's what the environment you're writing this dissertation in, you're constantly having a conversation when you sit down in front of your computer or your laptop. Am I saying this right? Does this even make sense? Is my chair going to even care about this? Is my chair going to accept this? I know my chair not going to like it. Or I know so-and-so's going to say this is wrong. And so all of the energy, you are showing up to write. You are being consistent with your schedule. I see y'all do have a plan. But what is happening when you sit down in front of your computer is that all of the doubt and the overwhelm and the questioning and the imposter syndrome is exhausting. You're spending more time in your head having imaginary conversations with your chair and whomever else that you are worried about clocking you, that you don't have much energy or time left over to put words on a page. And then when you try to explain this to your chair or maybe somebody else in the program, they're like, oh, you just got to get over that. You just got to write. Bitch, how? Okay, y'all, look, I'm gonna slow down on the cussing, but for real, but how? how? Because, you know, Meta be trying to like take you out. And I don't want nobody to take my live down. But seriously, but how? How am I supposed to just push through that when those are very real? The feelings is very real. And if you've had an experience of somebody telling you that you can't write, or somebody trying to, you know, threaten your status in the program, or someone is trying to be like, you don't belong here anyway. Like I had the program director tell me my first semester that he made a mistake in admitting me because I can't write. I don't know how to participate in class. And why? He like, you're just taking up space. Like, why are you here? So imagine having a lifelong, like a life of like these experiences and people telling you these things. And then they're like, okay, go produce some new knowledge, you know, go write. How? So this is why, y'all, I love to follow a good process. I love a process. Why? Because the process is like, here are the steps. Here is a checklist. All you have to do is check off this list. Even if you feel like you're doing it wrong, even if you're unsure, the job isn't, or the goal isn't to do it right. The goal is to just mark off the things on the checklist. And so that is how I teach people how to approach writing in general, but especially when it comes to the literature review. If we can make peace with it's like multiple steps, and you just need to focus on the step you are on. This is how people are writing their literature reviews in a week, in 2 weeks, in 30 days. For the students who do join a challenge and they struggle, because I'm not going to sit up here and be like, yeah, we got 100% success rate. No, because emotions don't work that way. For the students who don't do the best in the challenge, it's because their emotions are deeper than they originally thought. And I come on here and I talk about emotions. And I love when y'all come into my DMs and you be like, yeah, cool. I know you like to do all that like touchy-feely stuff, but I don't need that. I just need a plan. And then I giggle because I'm like, I've been doing this for a very long time, and I know that it's about your emotions. You don't know that yet, so I'll wait for you to catch up, right? Because you think, I deal with those emotions when I graduate. I don't have no emotions. Like, I got this far. Girl, just tell me what to do. And I'm like, but it's your emotions. Overwhelm, imposter syndrome, shame, guilt, emotions. You might not feel like, people might not be telling you that it's emotion. They might be telling you that you're not trying hard enough, that you don't care enough, that you don't want it enough. No. And those are still emotions, but yeah, we are here. Anyway, okay, so the process, I got 7 steps for you. And for the person who's taking notes from me, thank you so much. Here, we got 7 steps. Number 1, you need to have a clear topic. I know you might think that you have a clear topic, but you most likely do not have a clear topic. You need a clear topic. Who are the people you're focusing on? What is the problem they are experiencing, and where are they experiencing the problem? So we go back to my example. People are Black women in doc programs. The problem is enrollment rates are increasing, but retention and graduation rates are staying the same or decreasing. Environments are doctoral programs at historically white institutions. And I do say historically because they need to know their history, okay? So that would be a clear topic. Like, I have those points. What are your points? You can take out a sheet of paper right now. You can let me know in the chat, but who are the people? What are the problem? And what's the environment? Once you have that, now we're good to go. Now, step number two is let's take it one thing at a time. So we can focus on the people, we can focus on the problem, or we can focus on the environment. We're going to take one section at a time. Choose your section. So whatever your section, if you're already in process of your literature review, give me a little mini section, right? So let me use me as an example. The section I'm going to choose are the people. So Black women in doctoral programs, okay? That's number 2. So number 1 was a clear topic. Number 2 was select the section. Number 3, you're going to put your phone on Do Not Disturb. You're going to set the timer on your phone for 25 minutes. You're going to open up a document. And then you need to put on some music because I listen to Meg Thee Stallion to write, okay? Sometimes words end up in there, but hey, that's what editing is for. So you're going to, for 25 minutes, you're going to say, I'm going to talk about Black women in doctoral programs. Ask yourself, what is everything that I know about this section already? What is everything that I know? And you're going to write it out on the page. Whatever your brain says, whatever you get the urge to write, whatever ends up on a document just ends up on a document. This is not a time for editing. It's not a time for looking up anything. We're not reading anything. All you are asking yourself is, what do I know about this section? So what do I know about Black women in doc programs? So as I'm listening to my Megan, I'll be like, they got us fucked up. That's what I know. I know we built these programs. I know if they didn't have us, it wouldn't have nobody on the marketing materials. You know, like, we've been doing this for a very long time, yet we still don't have no support. They want us to work for them, but they don't want to give us, like, I am ranting because I'm not trying to be academic. I'm not trying to be professional. I'm asking myself, what is it that I already know about this topic? Now, I'm going to be like ranting. I might even put like some lyrics or something in there because I'm giving my brain time to catch up to the fact that we are writing. That may sound strange because you might be like, but you're writing, so doesn't your brain know that you're writing? Yeah, the back of your brain, your habit brain, the part that like runs on routine knows that you're writing because it's doing the actual, like the physical actions of writing or typing. But the front of your brain, the rational part of your brain, the part that makes conscious decisions, it needs time to catch up with you. It needs time. How I like to think about this, like when I go work out, and maybe y'all can relate to this. When I go work out, I'm like, I want to be here. Why am I not in the bed? Girl, like, who wants to, like this morning, I'm like, why am I at this gym? Okay, I could be in my bed still watching YouTube or something. No matter how much I love the workout at the end, every workout begins that way. Every workout for the first 5 or 10 minutes, I'm like, this is so stupid. I don't want to do it. But I know because I have enough like past evidence that, girl, you just got to wait this out for 10 minutes. And then I'll get into the mode of working out because I'm like, I'm here. I ain't going nowhere. I'm giving my front of my brain time to catch up that's what we're doing. Same thing when it comes to writing. We just simply have to give our brains enough time to say, hey, we're writing, because your brain does not want to write. Your brain thinks writing is the same thing as you running from a wild dog in the alley somewhere. Wait, does everybody have alleys in their place of, y'all get what I'm saying? Like you're running down the street and there's a dog chasing you. Your brain thinks writing is dangerous because anything that is hard or like takes significant energy and time to do, your brain is like, because we need that energy. Because if the dog comes back or another threat tries to take you out, you need energy to defend yourself or run away or fight back or like just to survive. So why would we take the chance to do something hard like writing when you might die any minute? Now your brain is dramatic. I need you to know that. Even if you don't think of yourself as a dramatic person, the back of your brain is real dramatic. It just always thinks that you might die. It's how we have survived so long as humans. So your brain does not know the difference between you writing your literature review and a dog chasing you. Again, I know that sounds real wild, but think about how you feel when you go to write. Think about the overwhelming fear and how you start to freeze and how you start to question yourself and how you start to be like, well, maybe I should do this. Maybe you get real frantic because your nervous system thinks that writing your literature review is going to significantly harm you or kill you. And so it's trying to get you to stop. So it will tell you things like, but it also knows, right? Your nervous system also knows you're too smart for it to say like, stop writing. So instead of telling you to stop writing, it might try to say stop writing, but instead it might say things like, oh, you remember like we said we was gonna make cookies earlier. We should go make cookies. Or you remember like the laundry, you left the clothes in the washing machine. They've been in there for 2 days. You probably should go switch them to the dryer. I'm telling on myself, by the way, because this is how my ADHD shows up. Right now, there's some clothes. You know, actually my cousin might have put them in the dryer, but low key they were in there they were in the washer for a while. I had to restart the washer. I often have to restart my loads because, you know, ADHD. All right. Or the nervous system might be like, you know, like Bad Boys 4 came out. We should go watch that. Let's go watch it. Let's go watch it. We don't need to do this literature review. We don't need to do this. Girl, you have something else to do, don't you? Your nervous system is real. Like, think about it as like, okay, y'all, I'm in rare form. I'm not in rare form. I'm just real. This is me today. We're here. Think about your favorite fuckboy energy person. Because I don't mean this in like, when I say fuckboy, I'm not necessarily talking about gender as much as I'm talking about energy. Because we all got one that we like, ooh, I know I shouldn't even be messing with you. Or maybe in your past, you're like, I shouldn't be messing with you. Okay, think about that person. You like, I know, but they just talk so good to me. Okay, they just make me feel so good when I'm around them. Okay, because listen, when the baby came out, I was like, this is why I need to stay in therapy. All right, because this young man is teaching me that I am not as healed as I thought I was. Okay, because anytime the baby comes on, it's not my baby. I just love it. Okay, but fuck boy energy. All right, that's how your nervous system is. Your nervous system knows exactly how to make you feel, how to whisper sweet nothings to you to get you to stop writing. So while you're thinking that it's like this personal failure on your end, that you can't put words on a page, or that it's hard to be consistent in writing, what I want to offer you is that your nervous system is dysregulated. That it's not about that you don't know enough. It's not about that you're not consistent enough. It's simply that your nervous system is dysregulated. And when your nervous system is dysregulated, its number one priority is to get you to safety. It's for your survival. And so if it's equating you writing your literature review as you're going to die, its job is like, how do I get them to safety? Safety is like, you are safer doing your laundry. You are safer going to sleep and take a nap. You are safer if you go make the chocolate chip cookies than if you sit here and write. So this is why I say follow a checklist, because I am helping you not only to make the progress in the literature review, but I am helping you to work with your nervous system. When we work in like 25-minute sprints, you are helping your nervous system. It's like exposure, like we're going to do a little bit of writing, but you know that a reprieve is coming. You know relief is coming. So you're more willing to show up and do the 25 minutes of writing than instead of what you might be doing, which is, I'm going to write all day Saturday. I'm going to lock myself in this room and I'm going to write for 10 hours. Your nervous system is like, so we're going to be locked inside the house with a killer for 10 hours? Oh, absolutely not. Okay, put a 1. Let me check in. Put a 1 in the chat if y'all are following me when I'm talking about nervous system and I'm talking about like what happens when you're writing. Are you still following me? Y'all still with me? And let me get a sip of water because y'all on top of my water. Okay, thank y'all. So let me go through, because I know we have a person who's taking notes. So far in this process, step number 1 in the 7 steps, step number 1 is you making sure you have a clear topic. You know who the people are, the problem they're experiencing, and the environment in which they're experiencing it. Number 2, you select one section or one literature review bucket, whatever language you like, one section at a time. We're going to focus on one section at a time, so you can choose the people, the problem, or the environment. Number 3, you're going to put your phone on Do Not Disturb. You're going to set a timer for 25 minutes. You're going to open up a document. You're going to ask yourself, what is everything that I know about this section? And you're going to free write for 25 minutes. You're not going to judge what you write. You're not looking up anything. We're not erasing anything. We're just putting words on the page. After you do that, you take a break. You get up out of your seat. You walk around, even if you walk around for 5 minutes, because what did I say? We need to give our nervous system relief. We need to tell the nervous system it's okay. Writing is okay. Essentially, you're teaching your nervous system that writing is safe, that you're not going to die because you're writing your literature review. And the way that we do that is we work in 25-minute chunks and we take a break. Pomodoro technique it works for a reason. Step number 4. You're still not going to read anything. On step number 4, you're going to edit the shitty draft that you just wrote. When I say write shitty paragraphs or shitty drafts, it's the free write. So you're going to edit. Now, I don't know what y'all be doing when y'all edit. There's a process for editing, at least how I teach it. Editing includes 4 things. So I know someone's taking notes. The first thing you do when you edit is run the spell check. Whatever the system you're using, if you use Grammarly, even though it's like terrorizing my computer, but maybe it doesn't terrorize your computer. So you just run the Grammarly or the spell check. That's one round. The second thing you do when it comes to editing, after you do the spell check, is You say, okay, I was just over here free writing because I got mag lyrics, right? I'm just over here just free writing. Now you want to make sure you have actual paragraphs. This is going to be the longest part of editing, but I argue that it is the most crucial part of editing. You're going to make sure that you have paragraphs. We're going to go back to high school or like undergrad English 101. A paragraph starts with a topic sentence or a thesis sentence or statement. Then you have supporting like definitions and examples to demonstrate the topic sentence. And then you have some sort of conclusion or transitioning sentence. Your job is to go through the entire shitty draft and create paragraphs. You want to make sure that each paragraph is only talking about one main idea. For y'all academics who love to put all these ideas in one paragraph, that is why you keep getting feedback like, I don't understand what this means, or can you say more? Can you keep writing? Because you got too many ideas in one paragraph. When I say go back to high school English 101, this is what I mean. We need one idea per paragraph. We need a topic sentence. We need definitions and examples to explain the topic sentence. And then we need a transition or a concluding sentence. You want to do that. If you're actually doing this process, this is going to take you probably 3 or 4 Pomodoro rounds, if not more. Because if you are truly sitting with your writing, you're making sure that there are paragraphs. This is the part of where you're making sure that you are clear on what it is that you want to say. This is where I start to lose people. This is where people allow their arrogance and their entitlement to get the best of them. Why did I use words like arrogance and entitlement? Arrogance says, oh, I already know how to do this. I'm in a doc program. I know how to do this. I know how to write. Arrogance says like, oh, I've written this and I've written that. I get A's. I don't need to do her steps. Those steps are for other people. Entitlement is, this should be easier. I shouldn't have to do all of this. Like, why do I even have to write a literature review anyway? Why do I even have to do all of this? And I should just be able to do the study the way I want to do it. Your arrogance and your entitlement is going to stop you from completing these steps. Don't be that person. Be the person who's like, I'm following the steps, because Dr. Lacey said, like, the steps are the key. The steps are key for you keeping your nervous system regulated and you making progress. So you're going to run the spell check. You're going to make sure paragraphs have structure. And then the third step of editing, you're going to focus on formatting. So most of you who are in my world, we use APA. You're going to dust off your APA manual. You should read that, by the way, but that's another conversation. We're going to make sure that formatting wise, this document is looking good. That means like we got headers, we got sub headers, we have like spaces for citations. And what I love to do is put cite, C-I-T-E, in parentheses where I think a citation should go. Because remember, we haven't read anything. So you may not know a citation. Some of you, though, will start to think of citations. Or you may think of something like, I remember I wrote a paper about this last month or a couple of years ago. I should go look up that paper. No, you shouldn't. Instead, you should put a comment on the side that says, look up so-and-so paper. Or I think such and such citation may go here. That's what we're going to do. We're going to do that on the side. You're not going to stop this editing process to go look up a thing. That's how you get distracted. We're going to stay in this document. So number 1 is run the spell check. Number 2, make sure you have paragraphs. Number 3, do your formatting. Formatting takes longer than you think. Y'all who keep trying to leave it to the last minute, tell me, I got 10 minutes for formatting, your feelings going to be hurt. And when you spend all this time making beautiful pages, but your formatting is janky, and you go turn it into your chair going to look at you like, what am I supposed to do with that? I can't read this. I don't know what it is about some faculty. They're like, they can't read the document if the formatting is off. All right, so I don't want you to be frustrated and then you're ready to pull up and bop them in their face. Instead, let's just make time for the editing. I have a rule that for every hour of writing, 3 hours of editing, which is why this step is taking the longest. Step number 4 in editing. Ooh, y'all not gonna like it though. You're not gonna like it because you're not. But step number 4, you gotta send it to somebody who's safe. You're not sending this to your chair. Unless your chair has explicitly said to you, send me drafts that it like in process. Unless they say they are willing to look at drafts like that, do not send it to them. Your feelings will be hurt. Yes, the live will be saved to my page. Your feelings will be hurt if you try to send it to them as your safe reviewer. When I say a safe person, I am saying who is someone that when you give them your shittiest of shitty drafts and you say, hey, can you look this over for me? When they give you feedback and they tear it apart, you don't take that as a personal critique of you. That instead you take it as, oh, I gave them a shitty draft and then they gave me some feedback to help me move forward. The other part that you're going to struggle with that people tell me all the time, what do you mean I'm going to give it to somebody to review? I haven't even read any literature. I'm like, I know, little ting ting. I know you think that you need the A because you're used to getting the A's. Because you know when you were a little kid, the only way that you knew that people cared about you and that they wanted to support you is when you got an A or you achieved something or you got an award and then they notice you. But we have to do our work and we're no longer little kids. And I know I just stepped on a lot of people's toes and necks. But this is why we talk so much about regulation and emotions. I am not trying to be your therapist. I am trying to help you understand that this is the life you are signing up for. And if you want to have longevity as a scholar, you're going to have to learn how to regulate your nervous system. And sometimes that means talking to little you and being like, I know that we were taught that our worth is dependent on what we can achieve. And this dissertation is not doing much by helping us with that. But we're going to have to find another way because it ain't working. Okay? I'm going to pause on that and I'll come back if somebody wants me to in terms of inner child stuff. But y'all, that's real. Send this to someone who, this is good for writing groups. It's good for any, program bestie that you have. It's good for another doc student that you say, hey, look at these few pages that I have and help me, tell me if my ideas are clear. Because that's what we really want to know at this stage. Is what I'm saying, are my ideas clear? Because we haven't read anything yet. We just want to make sure that the ideas are clear. Once that person gives it back to you, let's say it's about 2 or 3 pages. Once they give it back to you and you look at their feedback and you incorporate their feedback, what you're going to notice, and what your nervous system is going to notice, wait a minute, now we wrote the first section of the literature review and we didn't even read anything yet. Now we over here with a for real looking literature review. And you know what you start to feel? You're like, oh, let's get it. I got momentum. I'm ready to do the rest of this process. You have energy. You have drive to keep going. When you try to do it the other way where you read first and then you try to figure it out, you're not giving your nervous system anything to work with. So it's why am I doing this? This is painful. There's no motivation to keep doing it. This is why I tell y'all motivation is a lie. I'm not saying motivation doesn't exist, but the way you're trying to go about it is nothing about that is motivating. But when you see that you are making progress, when you see that the hours and the time that you spent on free writing and editing and making sure these paragraphs were coming together and you did the courageous thing of asking for feedback and you see that it's looking real good, you're more willing to read whatever you need to read to finish it so you can turn it in. How I set up my entire coaching program is I'm giving you a system to help you. I'm giving you a system for your writing, and I'm giving you a system to make it to the end of the dissertation. So this is why you can't come in and pick and choose, because your feelings going to be hurt if you try to do that, because the way my brain works, the flavor and neurospiciness I have puts things in a process that helps you to achieve both, all 3 of these goals. Okay. So you incorporated your friend's feedback. You're looking at a solid draft. Now we're going to move on to step number 5. Remember I said it's 7 steps in writing this literature review. Step number 5, we're going to go find, let's say, a few articles, anywhere from 3 to 10 articles. The reason why I give a range now is because I just find that, again, people be getting beside themselves. I used to say 10, but that's a lot for people. So I say, let's just find 3 to 5 or 3 to 10, it depends on the reader. But let's just say 3 articles. We're going to go find some literature, 3 articles. You're going to not read the entire thing. I know you want to read because you're comfortable. It's like your wubby. Reading the articles, you're like, oh, I feel safe. But that's why we're going to do this inner child work, because why are you letting her run the show or them run the show? The little person, They don't know what they're doing. They can't run the show. You're a grown person, scholar. You're going to run the show. And you're going to say, I'm going to choose these 3 to 5 articles. I'm going to read the abstract and the discussion. Why? Because why you need to read everything else? That's a question for you to consider. Why do you need to read the entire article? Like, if somebody got a logical answer from me, I'm up for it. Because here's the thing, you don't need to read the introduction or the literature review, because those are those people's interpretation of literature. Why are you going to read somebody else's interpretation of the literature to interpret the literature? You are supposed to be interpreting the literature for your literature review. Why are you looking at their interpretation? We don't even know if they read. We don't know if they just copy somebody else's literature. An example I think about and I giggle at is, you know how people use Black feminist thought as a theoretical framework? And have you ever noticed, for those of you who do a lot of research around Black women and people who use Black feminist thought, the paragraph is the same. People write about it in the same way. But if you ever read the book, then you would know she didn't write it that way. And so that was like, as a student, I was like, so people are just over here rewriting the same thing over and over because people are reading other people's literature reviews and they're not reading the literature for themselves. When you just read the abstract and the discussion, you're focusing on the main parts that you're going to use for your citation. Because the citation comes from the researcher saying, this is what we found, this is what these findings mean, and this is what we think you should do with it. You know, when you go to the discussion section, you're like, this is how it relates to existing literature, and this is our recommendations for practice and recommendations for future research. That's your citation. That's the citation you're going to use in your literature review. You're not going to use their citation from their literature review because that's their literature review justifying their study. You're going to use the findings and the discussion based on the study they conducted for your citation. So stop reading the articles, okay? If you just want to do busy work, you go right ahead. But what I'm saying is focus on the parts that matter. So you're going to choose 3 to 5 articles and you're going to do that. You're going to focus on, here's the abstract, here's the discussion. You're going to read that. You're going to take 10 to 15 minutes to just read those 2 sections. Don't be come over here talking about, I'm a slow reader, Dr. Lacey. You're reading 2 sections. So you got 15 minutes. Immediately after that 15 minutes, write a shitty paragraph about that article. Why do you need to write a shitty paragraph about the article? Because in 5 months from now, after you have collected your data and you've analyzed your data, and now it's time for you to write your discussion section where you have to map out, here's what you found, and you got to go back to the literature. That means you got to go back to those articles. And we don't need to reread the articles because you would have written your own versions of notes, which is the shitty paragraph. You see how my system be systeming? Because that's how my brain works. I'm thinking about you now and I'm thinking about you in the future. But what I see a lot of people do is like, you write all of these notes and you got all these highlights and all these stickies on these articles. And then when you need to come back because you're writing the discussion section, you have no idea how to like interpret all of that because it's too much. But if you have a paragraph, you can be like, oh yeah, I do remember that article. And if for some reason you do want to go read the entire thing, you know exactly, like you have a system for knowing which ones you want to read. Okay. So you're going to read those 3 to 5 articles, and then you're going to write the shitty paragraph, and then you're going to add the citation into your existing draft. Let me go back. Let me bring this full circle. Remember I asked you, how do you know what to read? How we know which articles to look up is because you already wrote the draft of the literature review section. Let me say it again. Because you have already written the draft of the literature review section, you know exactly what you need to justify. You know exactly what type of citations you need. You know exactly what type of articles or books or sources that you need to justify the ideas that you just wrote and you edit and you have someone give you feedback on. The finding of the citation is simple. It's easy. You could probably do that while you over there watching reruns of Scandal. Find the citations, but we know exactly what we're looking for, and so that's not going to take a long time. So then we could just jump into the second round of editing, right? Because most likely, as you read these 3 to 5 articles, you're like, oh, this goes here, that goes there. There's going to be some sections that don't have a citation, and that's fine because you're going to come back to this literature review. It's not the final draft of the literature review. Many of people have defended their proposal or prospectus without all citations being listed. And I'm not saying that that's what I want you to do. I'm just trying to bust your bubble a little bit. You don't need the perfect citation list in the way that you think. But most of you already have it. You just don't know how to use it. So you're going to add in the citation. That was step number 5. Step number 6 is you're going to go back and edit again. You're going to edit. Okay, now that I add these citations, is there anything else I need to add in here that'll make this more clear? This editing part won't take that long because you did all the heavy lifting up above when we did the free write and then we edit it. You're just going to do a little jush. You're going to be like, okay, is this good to go? And then you're going to turn it into your chair. That's step number 7. Step number 7 is turning it into your chair. Let me repeat this. Number 1 was a clear topic. Do I have a clear topic? Do I know who the people are, the problem they're experiencing, and the environment they're experiencing in? Number 2, I'm going to choose one section to focus on for the literature review. Step number 3, we're going to free write that section for 25 minutes. I'm going to ask myself, what is everything that I know about that section? I'm just going to free write. Step number 4, I'm going to edit. I'm going to run the spell check. I'm going to put things into paragraphs. I'm going to make sure it's a topic sentence, details, concluding sentence. I'm going to focus on formatting, headers, citations, and then I'm going to read over and just make sure it's good to go, and I'm going to send it to my friend for some initial feedback. Once my friend gives me that initial feedback, I'm going to incorporate that and make sure it's clear. Only then will I go find 3 to 5 articles. I'm going to read the abstract and the discussion. And I'm going to incorporate those citations into the draft I've already written. I know what articles to look for because I know what ideas I'm trying to justify because I've already written about them. I'm going to do some more formatting and editing, and then I'm going to send it to my chair, and I'm going to move on to the next section. This is how you write a literature review in 30 days or less. Because you're following a step-by-step process, you will keep moving. I know the people who don't follow the process because they don't have a draft of the literature review. Because you're trying to outsmart me or outsmart the process, you're doing everything but put words on the page. Or for the people who are like, you don't understand, Dr. Lacey. I really do need to read, girl. Like, I don't know what you think I know. Which y'all love to tell me is like, well, you have more faith in me than I have in me. We could talk about that in a minute, but I'm only reflecting to you who you already are. Whatever thoughts you have about me, it's just a projection of who you are. Let that sit for a minute. Let that sit. Please share in the comments everything that you're thinking about me, the comments, the beautiful comments and compliments y'all have been giving me. It's just a projection of you. What if you believe me? What if you truly are brilliant? What if you truly do know what you're doing? And what if the only thing that is happening is that you just happen to be in an abusive environment that is trying to control you, and because you won't be controlled, they just keep making your life miserable? What if that's just how the system works? The system feeds off of control. That's what makes it abusive and oppressive. And so they want people to show up in higher education and all act the same way, dress the same way, talk the same way, write the same way, be researchers the same way. And anyone who dares to step out of that same wayness, you become a threat to the system, and the system is will correct and be like, oh, you need to be removed. And so they will make your experience hard. They will tell you that you're not a good writer. They will tell you that you're not trying hard enough. They will question every belief and doubt that you have, or everything that you're trying to offer to them, because you just don't fit in with the process or the system. What if the point is not to fit in? Because if you truly want to disrupt systems of oppression, it starts with higher ed, because it is a system. Okay, but before I go off on too many rants, let me go up and look for questions. Please let me know what questions you have, and I'll be happy to answer them. Okay, you are uncovering the problem or gaps, and you're giving me notes, knowing why. I know. Okay, what is my PhD in? So I graduated from the University of Georgia from the College Student Affairs Administration program. We are the quirky, kind of creepy people on college campuses where, think back to your undergrad experience, and maybe you went into the student union, or you went to get something to eat on campus, and then some random person just walked up to you and was like, hey, we're having a pizza night, you should come to the pizza night. Or we're having this concert, you should come to this concert. Or like, hey, we're going to be playing like a Harry Potter scavenger hunt. You want to come join us? We are the quirky people who are like, hey, don't you want to come do this fun thing? And then you get there and you realize, not to trick me into learning, but I'm having fun though. Like low key, like this Harry Potter, this is it. I could do this. Student affairs people is how I'll explain it to folks. Like, we design learning environments that trick students into thinking they're having fun, but they're also learning. That's a very simple way of putting that degree, but I pretty much study higher education. Okay. And my research was in student activism, campus-based sexual assault, and identity development of Black women. Okay. Okay, I've seen comments, but I don't see many questions. Like I said, if y'all want to join us, we are in the middle of the 30-day literature review challenge. We still have all the recordings available. This is the second session of our 30-day challenge. So last week, what we did is got really clear on what the problem statement is. And today is where we're going to do a deep dive in the thing that I just explained to you. We're actually going to do that on a call. Because in my brain, I've already told you what to do. Y'all been here with me on this live. You know what to do. Where you might be struggling is, okay, but how do I do what I know I need to do? Whether it's with the literature review or not, where I argue like programs fail students is they just tell you what to do in this abstract way, but they just like, go do this, but they don't explain how to do it. And when you ask questions about, well, how do I do the thing? They're like, oh, that's for you to decide. You're the doc student. And that's great. But if I don't even know where to begin, how am I supposed to figure out how? So what I do inside of the Institute is I tell you how. And I hold space for you to do it. So on tonight's call, I'm going to put these 7 steps up. And I'm going to say, all right, open up your document. Let's go. And we're going to go through each step together. Because what did I say about the nervous system? If your nervous system is equating writing your literature review with you're going to die, you need support. You need community. You need other people being like, you're not going to die. Like, watch this. We're going to do it together. When those feelings start to come up of like, I should already know how to do this. Like, it shouldn't even be this deep. You're going to have other people around you being like, but it is this deep. But it is this hard. And that's why we're doing it together. And when your brain tries to say like, man, Dr. Lacey, I need to go read. I'm going to be right there being like, what you doing? Why are you not following along? Why are you not on your Zoom following along with us? We're writing for a reason. And I don't know if Chris is still here, but this is why Chris is going to finish his whole proposal by the end of June. Because that's what we've been doing every Thursday. Chris has been showing up. I'm so proud. Let's do a mid-month like report for those of you who've been following along Chris's journey. Okay, because I said what Chris thinks is ridiculous, that he's going to write a proposal in 30 days. And I just want to, for anybody who's considering it, like you're hearing me say this, and I'm saying 3-0. What if you could write your proposal in 30 days? I'm not saying that it's going to be a perfect proposal, but what if you could write a complete draft of your proposal in 30 days? What would that mean for you? Now we are impromptu coaching. What would it mean? And so while I was talking to Chris, interviewing Chris, I was like, Chris, we're going to do this. We're going to do this, right? We're going to do this in 30 days. And Chris was like, ignored me. With whoever was, I was re-listening to that live the other day. I was like, Chris, hello? Are you still here? And Chris was like, I don't know who you're talking to because it can't be me. I'm not doing it in 30 days. And y'all, let me be all the way 100 with you. Chris is like, no, I'm going to do my step. I'm going to just do the steps I'm on. I'm not doing this in 30 days. But I'm like, it's all right. I got enough energy for the both of us to keep reminding you that you're going to do this in 30 days. So as a mid-month progress report, Chris has been showing up to all the writing calls, even extra calls, asking for help, asking questions and clarifying questions on things that he's like, I think I do know the answer, or I think I should know the answer, but I'm still going to ask you anyway. Love to see it. I love it. Chris is like, girl, I don't know what weed you smoke, but it must be real good because I'm not doing that. But Chris still shows up to the call, still gives like reports. And that is what I care. It is not so much about Chris must achieve this goal by any means necessary by the end of the month, right? Because we might get to the end of June and Chris might be like, I didn't do the whole proposal. And I'm going to ask, but what did you do? And the what did you do might be like, well, I got an introduction chapter. I got a Methodist chapter and I got half of a lit review. And imagine if I wasn't putting this pressure on Chris, where he would be if I didn't, right? And because we have this relationship, Chris is not brand new to me. We have a relationship in terms of Chris has been in the program, understands who I am. There's a level of safety that has been established. So when I say something ridiculous like, oh, write the proposal in 30 days, I mean, Chris is like low-key kind of ignoring me, but it's not from a place of, what? Like, I can't believe you gave me this goal. It's too much. It's not a flipping out like that. And if we're gonna be real honest, I'm about to put Chris's business all the way out there. What really happened, and what often happens when I say things like this, is that it starts to click. There was a voice when I said, hey Chris, like, what if you did your proposal in 30 days? There was a voice in the inside that was like, you could do that, right? That's possible. And that's scary, y'all. Like, I'm getting chills right now. That's the real fear. When you start to recognize your power, when you start to recognize what you're truly capable of, that is what's really stopping you. But that's my superpower. I can bring that out of you. So that's why I'm like, hey, Chris, how's it going? Background, problem statement, done. We're going to move on to the next and submit it for feedback. How often do y'all send stuff for feedback? But there was a voice that was like, Chris, you probably could do this, right? It may not be a month, but you could probably do this before the summer is over. Because the other part to this, so in student affairs, one of the first theories or frameworks that you learn is something called challenge and support. That your level of challenge that you give a student, your support must match that same level of challenge. So when your programs are telling you, oh yeah, you're going to do 2 years of coursework and a year for the dissertation, that's a challenge. But does the actual program provide you enough support to meet that challenge? Like, is there a class on how to write your dissertation? How available is your chair, your advisor? How accessible are the writing center, right? Like, does the support match the level of challenge that they gave you? So me giving Chris a challenge of, no, we're going to do this in 30 days. I know that I have the support there to match. I know that I'm going to see Chris a minimum of like 2 or 3 times a week, if not more, because we have 4 calls a week. It's because it designed a program that there are co-writing sessions, there are planning sessions, this is how you write each section of the dissertation sessions. And so I know I'm going to see Chris multiple times, and I'm going to be like, hey, what you doing? What's going on? What questions can I answer? I also know we have a community. So Chris will often send me messages as an update, and I'll be like, thank you so much. That's support. Chris knows I don't have to do this by myself, so I feel more encouraged to do it. Imagine though, if you don't have a community behind you, don't have support behind you, to do something like writing a proposal in 30 days it is impossible, because like, where's the support to help you with that challenge? I want to answer this because I feel like this is a question. People often say, well, why do I need a dissertation coach? Or why should I join your program if I already have my chair, I have my faculty, I have my program? Because one person can't be all things to you. And like I just said, is your program structured in a way to support you through this dissertation phase? Or was it mainly there to support you through coursework? This is not about shitting on your program. It's not about talking shit about your faculty. That's not what I'm trying to do. I'm saying is how the program currently structured enough to help you. But this brings us to a deeper conversation, and I'm trying not to go on too many rants today. You have to learn that you are deserving of support. Like, a lot of the work that we do is that you have to learn that you deserve support. Like, you don't have to earn someone wanting to help you. You don't have to earn it. But many of us have parents, or we come from families, or we come from backgrounds that says the only way that you can get recognized, the only way that you can have somebody help you is if like you 2 inches away from dying, or you do something so extraordinary that then people pay attention to you. But what if I told you that it is your right. Like, you, just because of who you are, just because you are a student in the program, that you deserve someone to sit with you and help you to get clear on your ideas. You deserve someone to say, let me look at your writing and help you, let me give you some prompts to help you like process this. You deserve someone to explain the purpose of a literature review or the purpose of the Memphis chapter. You deserve someone answering these questions and pointing you in the right direction of like, yeah, like, I can help you get started, and I'm going to give you some resources where you can continue your learning. Like, it is your responsibility to learn the things, but it is not on you to create the whole program structure and go do the work. What I mean by that is, like, most chairs will just tell you, you gotta go figure out the dissertation. I don't have to do anything. That is not support. That is them not doing their job. That is them for whatever reason, they're not showing up and helping you. And so I'm getting serious because I want you to know that, like, you don't have to do anything extra to get that should just come. And if for whatever reason your program doesn't offer that, then yes, you have to go get that from an external source. Now, if you are good and you're fully supported and you rocking and rolling with your program, then you don't need a coach. You don't need to come over here. You know, we're going to support you from the sidelines. Okay, we're going to clap for you as you win. But for those of us who don't have that level of support, we need it. I did not know that dissertation coaching existed as a student. I didn't find that out until I was like towards the end of it, and I had a business coach who was like, you know, you could probably do that for a business. I was like, what, girl? I was like, girl, you lying, because I don't even think that exists. I think you made that up. And she was like, no, for real, it exists. And I found one person, I'm trying to think, I think it was like the dissertation mentor, and I was like, this is a real thing. But I had no idea, because if I did, okay, let me tell you, my full loan check would have been like, girl, help me. My chair told me I had to write my dissertation in 2 months. Girl, help. But I didn't know. But it is okay to get support. You're not taking the easy way out. You're learning how to achieve challenging, complex goals with a proper level of support. Most of you are just used to, because I'm talking to me too, most of us are just used to achieving the impossible with nothing, making something out of nothing. That is helpful to get out the hood. It is not helpful when you get to this level, because the very thing that helped you to get out the hood is going to be the thing that's going to keep you there. It's going to send you right back, because you got to learn a different skill set. Okay, y'all, I probably should go, because I feel like at this point, we didn't went around the world. But like I said, if you want to join us for the 30-day literature review challenge, you absolutely can do that. I believe the link is in the bio. If not, I'm going to go double check after this to make sure the right link is there. And let me know if you have questions, you want to follow up. For the people who are giving notes, thank y'all so much. This made this live amazing. And hopefully I can download this so I can like message y'all, because I want to say thank you. I'm going to go eat lunch and rest before the rest of the coaching calls, and I will talk to y'all later. Bye, y'all.